G'day everyone and welcome back to the next big thing. It gives me great pleasure to welcome our next guest. He is an Afghan-American producer, composer, and pianist. And in 2013, he became the very first Afghan-American to win a Grammy Award in the Best New Age Album category. This album was called Echoes of Love, and I think you know who we are talking about. Please welcome the amazing Omar Akram. Omar, welcome to the next big thing.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure to be speaking with you. So thank you for having me on.
No, it's a pleasure, mate. I've followed your work now, and I've caught up with a lot of the stuff that I've missed out, and such a wonderful body of work. So congratulations on creating such relevant, significant music.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, we'll talk about moments of love, moments of beauty, sorry, and we'll talk about echoes of love. I combined the two of them, didn't I? So, and we'll talk about all of these wonderful moments. But you know how traditionally we do stuff on the next big thing is we invite the guest on to share a couple of things about themselves, and one of them is facts, and the other is absolute a figment of their imagination. Okay, you have to make one thing up, but I don't know which one's which. So if you're ready, hit me.
Let's do it. So one of my hobbies is to fly small planes. I've taken lessons since I was 15, 16 years old. Flying, taking, pilot lessons. And so that's one of my hobbies. I love flying small planes, and living in Southern California, the weather is mostly nice. And when I'm flying, I could see where I'm going, and it's lovely.
Okay.
All right. So the other thing is, I love health and fitness. And the other thing that I love to do is, do boxing. And I've been pretty active. Actually, boxing is something that, my dad used to watch a long time ago. And then I sort of grew up watching it. And I'm just a huge fan till this day. I try to go to fights as much as I can, but my workout is boxing, and I get in the ring and love to box, which is very different than my new age calm music, obviously. So there you go.
There's a lot of detail in both, okay? Which at the amount of detail you were putting in the first one, I was like, yeah, surely this is fact, because but you had equal amount of detail in both. And so that can be a bit confusing. The question is, do I want to get in a plane with you, or do I want to get in a ring with you?
Yes.
Right? That's what it's come down to, isn't it?
Yes.
You look in pretty good shape, to be honest. So I'm going to say, oh gosh, I'm going to say that you're into boxing, and you haven't flown a plane yet. So, you're into boxing. That's a fact. The plane is fiction.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Correct? Okay.
Yes, you made it. And you know what? My dream is to get, flying lessons, which I haven't been able to do yet. I mean, I do ride a motorcycle, I do other things, but flying plane is something that I've been dreaming of, and I haven't had a chance to do it. So very good. Yeah, wow. Don't get in the ring with me.
Yeah, no,
that's going to be dangerous.
I'll be in your corner.
Thank you. Very, very good.
Wow. Okay, so boxing, motorcycling, and a wish to learn, flying. Is that the thrill seeker in Omar Akram?
Yes and no. Well, I was even a bigger thrill seeker before I had kids, but now I have two young kids, so things are kind of shifting a little bit, and I'm not as anxious to get on a motorcycle. I actually sold my motorcycle and taking, flying lessons. I'm not in a major hurry to do that. So
interesting. So yeah. I know you're into movies. And the other day, I haven't finished it yet, but I started watching Creed. And funnily, I haven't caught up on any of the Creed movies. So I started watching Creed 1. And interesting. I thought it was interesting. Some of it worked for me, some of it didn't. But what do you think of boxing movies? And do you have a favorite?
For boxing movies, I'm not a huge fan of boxing movies, but the one movie that I really love if you asked my favorite boxing movie, would be the first Rocky.
Oh, the
You
very
know, the
first
very
Rocky.
first Rocky.
Yeah.
You know, because of Stallone and the rawness
Yeah. Yeah.
and just how it was done in the story,
Mm,
you know, the underdog and all of that really made,
mm,
and then a lot of it was done real. It wasn't a lot of special effects back then. So
mm.
this was, I don't know,
70 something,
1976
right?
or what,
Yeah. Yeah.
76, 77.
Was it
And it was just, I thought that's probably my favorite boxing movie, you
yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
would say.
If I remember correctly, and it's a great movie, and I don't know if I'm getting this right, but Stallone did say in an interview that he locked himself in a room and wrote the screenplay in 3 days. I think it was for Rocky. I think, if I'm correct.
Yes,
It's great.
yes.
It's a superb film.
Amazing story.
Amazing story.
Amazing guy, amazing story. But yeah,
Yeah.
so that's, I would say, I have not seen any of the Creed movies,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I would say that that would be my favorite boxing
Yes.
movie. But I do follow boxing very closely. Like almost every day I watch YouTube stuff and see what's
Ah,
happening in the world of boxing.
okay.
Very interested.
Favorite
Yeah.
boxer of all time?
You know, I would say there's several of them, but there's one guy that I like now is Tyson Fury, obviously from
Okay.
England. You know, he's very
Okay.
he's amazing. But what I love about him is his personality.
Yeah.
He's a humongous 6'9", you know, guy, pretty
Yeah.
big,
Yeah.
and he's just an amazing entertainer. And I
Yeah.
think, you know, a lot of these things, you know, when we watch
Mm,
sports,
mm.
you know, it's sports, but it's also obviously entertainment, right? And this guy's taking entertainment to the next, you know,
Sure.
level.
Sure.
I just
Sure.
love it. But yeah, I mean, you know, I come from the Mike Tyson
Mm,
era,
mm.
which you know, in the 80s, that was really
Yeah.
my time,
Yeah.
and just amazing stuff. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I have several boxers that I
Fantastic,
love.
fantastic. And I must say, when you you mentioned Mike Tyson and you mentioned, before we got on to the show, we were talking about your mic, and and we were admiring and comparing it. I think it's similar to the one Joe Rogan uses. And my mind goes back to the episode that, Joe Rogan's shot too, I think, with Mike Tyson. And there's one where it's after Mike Tyson got back into the ring, and he's ripped and he's ferocious and ready to go. And I think he scared Joe Rogan in the podcast, because I think Joe Rogan cracked a joke and Mike Tyson said that's not funny. I don't know if you've seen it,
Oh
but
man, no.
no, it's hilarious. So, I mean, it's not. So you're like, wow, this is
I
Mike
gotta
Tyson.
watch it. That sounds pretty funny though.
Yeah, yeah, and
That sounds
they're
fun.
separated by a table, and then Joe Rogan says, "I felt that the table was too short."
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. Yeah.
So interesting, very interesting boxing. So cool, very cool thing to do. But let's go back to, you burst onto the scene many years ago, even before your first Grammy win. But it was in 2013 with Echoes of Love that you became the first Afghan-American to win at the prestigious Grammys. And take us back to that time. How did you feel when it got nominated, and when they announced your name as the winner? Take us back to that night and to the lead up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can't believe, I mean, 10 years have gone by, but it's interesting enough, when I was doing Echoes of Love and I was mixing some of these more ethnic instruments like the tabla,
Mm,
and I was using the Armenian duduk
mm,
and some of these other instruments. I when my record label at that time submitted for the Grammys, I thought this is something really novelty for, before that it was a lot of the George Winston sort of, Will Ackerman, the very, the new age was a different type of music, which was
mm,
beautiful, but
mm,
it just was going on a different path. And when I
mm,
came in, because of my background,
mm,
I mean, I'm classically trained, and I'll be
mm.
happy to talk to you about, my upbringing, and,
Sure,
grew up in Europe and all of that.
sure.
But, my upbringing was in European classical music, but at the same time, just bringing all of those elements into my music, kind of what you're doing beautifully in your music, it's
Thank you.
bringing those elements, because that's who we are, right?
Mm,
You
mm,
can't really take that away from us,
yeah.
and so when I put that in, when my album was submitted for the Grammys, I honestly didn't think that it would even be nominated because I just didn't think people would get it. But the interesting thing was that people really, I had very good reaction, from the beginning, that people would just email me, hey, we got your CD. At that time, people used to actually go out and buy CDs.
What's
and
that?
and they're like, we love it. So I would get a lot of like nice emails from people. And I thought, well, that's really nice because people are connecting. And then when there was not a lot of, I didn't really do a whole lot. We just submitted it. And apparently people just listened. And the night that the nomination comes out is kind of a big deal because they announce it on national television here in the US. And it's just a big, they have a big star, announcing it. And that night I didn't even turn on the TV. We were watching something else. My daughter was very young, so I was just helping with her stuff, and I didn't even watch it. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting, a bunch of text from people. My phone is going off saying, man, we just saw your name, you're nominated. So it was just, amazing to be nominated. And even then, immediately, the fact that you mentioned beginning of the show, because I became the first Afghan-American. Both of my parents are from Afghanistan, born in New York. It became a kind of a big thing. And literally the next morning, it was on Los Angeles Times, the fact that that I became the first a nominee. So I just thought, wow, just to be a nominee is great, and then when the night came for the actual event, I just thought to myself, well, somehow I got the nomination, but there's no way that out of all these people, these great, the wonderful artists throughout the world, that I would be the one, winning. So as a matter of fact, and it's funny because just last week I was talking to another friend of mine, Brent Fisher, who won the same night. I run into him at an event, and we were talking about that because I was not ready. I didn't even have anything written out because I thought, for me, I just knew it's not going to happen. And then one of my friends who won a few years before, her name is Nancy Rumble, great musician, and she said, Omar, you're one of the nominees, okay, so it's possible that you will win. There is a possibility because you are one of the 5 nominees. So I just wrote something really quick, and when they announced my name, I mean, obviously I was in shock, and at that point I just felt like the culture have shifted a bit, that people really got what I was doing. And it's always a good feeling when people understand what you're doing as an artist, that I connected with people. And I think that was, for me, it was just not only for me, but for all the artists and people from that part of the world, so I felt like I'm sort of on stage accepting for all of us, because none of those people have been able to win anything in an international stage, let alone, winning like the biggest, musical prize in the world. So it was a bitter, I was obviously very, very happy, but I was at the same time kind of like, really, am I the first one out of like all of these years, but yeah, it just opened the doors for me to hopefully encourage a lot of artists from that part of the world and really make a statement. So it was just amazing. And as a matter of fact, even now I'm working with the Recording Academy to bring in some working on some diversity initiatives and things like that. I think it's very important that we open the door for artists from all around the world, like yourself, like other people that are just very talented, but we need to invite them to be part of our system and to be really recognized, because it does make a huge difference when you win a Grammy Award, obviously.
100%, 100%. And tell us about life post the Grammy. Obviously it made a huge difference. It elevated, your music, and it reached far and wide. what has happened since, and the number of projects in the pipeline. Do tell us about life after the Grammys.
Well, I was just a guy writing music in a dark studio all the time. And then right after the Grammys, things kind of like really opened up for me. And all of a sudden, I actually had to hire a publicist because there's so many things coming my way that I was like, man, I can't, answer all this stuff. I need somebody to help me. So I actually hired a publicist, a local great lady here in Los Angeles, and she was helping me. And about a week later, I don't know if I told you this story offline, but if I have, I'm telling it to you again.
Yeah.
I was about a week later, my publicist said that there is a Stevie Wonder is having a birthday party, and he's invited you to come. He invited you as a guest, and you got to understand that Stevie Wonder was a hero of mine growing up, and I never met him. We've never communicated, never.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, I won a Grammy, and I'm being personally invited to his party.
By Stevie Wonder, yeah. That is fascinating.
And when I showed up,
when
I showed up, we hugged, and he says, "Oh, man, I love your album. I knew you're going to win." It was like, I was just totally blown away.
Whew.
Just being able to, even back up a little bit, even the night that I won.
Yeah.
There's a red carpet event, because our event is just prior to the main event where they're presenting the record of the year and things like that, right before.
Yeah.
There's a red carpet event right in between. And as when I won the Recording Academy, they have a publicist assigned to you that walks with you to introduce you to all the media outlets.
Yeah.
And as I'm walking down, right next to me is Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Right.
And Jay-Z just gave me a big hug, because there's a person in front of you, says Grammy. She's literally carrying a card saying Grammy winner for this category. There's somebody walking in front of you like this. So people know that you just want to Grammy. So the Jay-Z was literally walking right next to me. The guy gives me a hug, and we're just talking like we've known each other for 20 years. And I'm thinking, all it took is one thing, and I've arrived. That's it, But the funny thing is, my music is the same. Nothing changed. I'm the same guy that I was doing the same thing last month, the month before. Yeah. But now, because of this one statue, things have changed. So, look, it's about recognition and all of that. And then, obviously things open up and you wind up doing projects and things like that. So, just like anything, if an actor win an Oscar, obviously it opens up doors for them to do things. For us in the music, it's the same thing, and you just have to take advantage of it and move on. So, it's been an amazing journey, and I'm just thankful that I was able that happened, and just there's so many musicians, there's so many talents that are out there that we don't know about them, and I just happened to be, someone that I created something that connected with people and at the right time. So I'm thankful for that.
Fantastic. And we're thankful that, your music has reached far and wide, has reached us. So thank you very much. So let's fast forward 10 years down, 2023, and here you are with Moments of Beauty. I believe 10 tracks in the album, if I remember correctly. And I had the pleasure of listening to it, and it's absolutely divine. It's beautiful. Tell us what led to the making of Moments of Beauty.
Yeah, well, thank you. First of all, thank you for listening. And it's actually been an interesting journey for me. And it started while it sort of came to me while I was at a restaurant with my kids having dinner. We were on vacation, and And as I'm having fun and, with my family eating and stuff like that, I had this flashback of me sitting with my own parents when I was a kid and my two brothers.
Oh.
And that that flashback, and my father's not with us anymore, but my mother is older, and just, that whole idea of how life just kind of goes on, the passage of time, right? Really struck me for some reason. And when I left that restaurant immediately, we were on vacation. I didn't have my keyboard, but I did have my iPad. So I wrote down a couple of musical ideas down, which I usually do when I don't have my equipment. But when I came back, that became a piece called Passage of Time, where it starts out with just the piano, beautiful, and it just kind of morphs into this really bigger orchestral, arrangement that takes you through time. It's like you don't realize how fast time is going. And you're every day you're kind of doing your thing, and next thing you know, 20, 30, 40 years have gone by, right? And that's kind of how I felt in that place when I saw my own kids. And I knew that one day they're going to be probably coming here with their own kids and thinking about me, which I'm going to be 80 or 90 years old, or even not here. So that realization was the beginning, the seeds for this album. And then when I looked closely, I realized that there are certain moments in our lives that really, if you ask anyone 5 or 6 or 7, main moments in their life, they will tell you right away, because they know, because it's that
that's
powerful.
Significant. Yep, that powerful.
And so this album, I called it Moments of Beauty, where even though some of those moments might be painful, like for instance, in my example, when my father passed away, 3 weeks later, my son was born, so just losing someone that you're that close to, and then having your son being born, that's life. That's life. It's like, I don't know if you're familiar with Deepak Chopra. He's
I am. Yes, I am.
A friend of mine. He's a writer
fantastic.
and a great guy. He was telling me about when he went to India when his father passed away, and the way they burned the body and everything, and he's outside in this rural area of India, and while he's watching his father being cremated, or the ceremony, literally right next to it, there's a wedding. And you see people on the other side where they're actually dancing and things like that. And he's like, just seeing that. And those are the kind of moments that I think he would remember for the rest of his life, right? Seeing that. And it's for us, and even for you, for anyone, I think we have these really great moments. So I think Moments of Beauty sort of came with that. And usually what I do is I work with, big, orchestras, like in Destiny a few years ago. I worked with like an ADP symphony and all that stuff. What I did is I kind of stripped that, and I started on the piano and just did a very basic arrangement, very kind of a lot of synth, but I did have a great string quartet that these are wonderful people. Niagara String Quartet, they work with Rod Stewart and a lot of Josh Groban, and so had them come in to do some of those parts. But for the most part, I just sort of did it. My friend David Arana, he did some arrangement, helping me with some synth sounds and stuff like that. So I was just able to just kind of put it together in a very organic way. It almost took me back to my very, very first album, Opal Fire, that came out in 2002, which I didn't have any money. So I just did it all in one synth and one like sound module, and that was really the end. And it's kind of like doing it that way for me now, and it just came out really organically, and somehow it's connecting with people. It was released on Amazon. It became the number one,
Yeah,
on hot new releases, was number one on Amazon. And so yeah, I mean, it's as you mentioned earlier, it's up in the running for another Grammy Award and
yeah,
things like that. So I think the Spotify numbers have been very good, and
fantastic.
so it's just connecting. And I just do these things, and I'm sure you're the same way. When you feel something, right? When
Mm,
there's something to say, you don't
mm.
just fabricate something. You
No,
just
no,
do
no.
it because you have a message or
Yeah,
something that you want to say. So yeah, thank you for saying that, and I'm very proud of this album, and I hope
that's a
people will
great,
check
it's a
it
great,
out.
it's a great project. And I think Mystery, I think also was at number one of the tracks, which I
Yes,
thoroughly enjoyed, right?
thank you.
And I've seen that.
Yes.
So fantastic, fantastic job. Wow. So 10 years on, yeah, I'm looking forward. I'm hoping to come to LA, and hopefully on the 4th of February, you're there, I'm there, and we actually meet in person.
Yes.
That would be lovely. That would
That would be wonderful. Seeing you as a nominee would be wonderful, you know?
and same here as well. I
You know.
yeah, that would be great. But either way, I think I was just reflecting on, the Academy's acceptance came through about a couple of months ago now, 3 months ago. And since then, regardless of what happens in terms of nomination and things, I feel like I've won so many things. I won wonderful friends like yourself. I've listened to very unique pieces of music, and genres that I didn't even know. I wouldn't have been exposed to it had I not come on board as a voting member. So I think I'm definitely better off for that. So it's been a wonderful experience, I must say, already, regardless of what lies ahead. So
No, thank you. Yeah, I mean, having someone like yourself with your background where you are, and not only your background as a person, but also musically,
mm,
enriches what we have at the Recording Academy. And it's artists like yourself
mm,
that should be part of it. That a few years ago, unfortunately, we weren't able to do that. But now, with our new leadership and the commitment that they are putting in place to be able to bring wonderful artists like yourself, it's really a joy and an honor for us, actually, to have you, joining us and being part of, the family.
no, thank you so much, Omar. Oh, wow. And Omar, I must say, when you talked about your music, about the Grammy experience, about anything really, you're a very good storyteller. And you really gripped me. I was all like, wow, what happens next?
Good, good,
So,
good.
yeah, no, it's fast, it's great. And I know that you write. You're a writer, Huffington Post, I believe you write for Huffington Post. And then I also know that you do a lot of work in film, TV, and all of that's happening in the background. So tell us about that. Tell us about that part, that side of Omar Akram.
Well, I think, look, like I'm sure with you the same. We're artists and we want to just do things.
Yeah,
Yes, primarily I do music,
yeah.
and one of the advice that I always got, I think it was from Jay-Z, and he said,
Woo!
you say, I don't think it wasn't, as I to clarify, it wasn't to me directly. It was in an interview with someone else. I don't
Not
want to
when he
say.
not when he hugged you and
Yeah, no, yeah. When he
no.
asked me, he just said congratulations. But I
No.
just want to clarify that he didn't call me on my cell phone to tell me
Hey,
this.
Omar.
I just want to put this out. No, I
Yeah, yeah,
think
of course.
one of the things that he was saying, that it's just excel in one platform is,
Yeah,
to really um be able to do other things. So I
yeah.
think for me, just like an artist, I don't like sitting down and doing nothing. So if
Mm,
I
mm,
if I'm done with one thing, I like to go out and do so. And for me, a lot of it,
mm,
when the pandemic happened, where we were just, I wasn't able to perform. I wasn't able to do a lot of things, not to meet with people to play and things like that. I was able to kind of parlay my stuff. I became very active on YouTube, starting that. And I really didn't have anything on YouTube. And now I have like over 18,000, subscribers on YouTube. I mean, from really posting here and there, but I tried to do it a little bit more consistent. And also, I love movies. I love entertainment. I love television. I grew up on television, when I was a kid. My mother, God bless her, she would just put me in front of the TV and that was it, So I just, sitcoms, things like that. So yeah, I'm collaborating with like Emmy Award winning writers and things like that, for television projects. I secured a property. I think I told you offline. It's a book, that thriller book that I'm doing it with Hollywood director and things like that. But all of these things are part of who we are, right? Because we just do. I mean, look at you. You have a successful podcast. Right, because you want to do other things, right? You don't want to just sit around and, wait for something to happen, because you want to make things happen, right?
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I mean, I have these other projects, but, obviously I tell people, my day job is music, I mean, that's what I do. That's my thing. And then everything else is sort of related to that because it's entertainment. But yeah, I just love doing it. I just love getting together with people, say, hey, let's do this. Let's, if people listen, great. If they tune me out, I go to someone else. But nice. I just keep going.
Nice. No, I completely hear you. I completely hear you, man. Kindred souls. So I completely hear you. And, about 2012, when my first novel came out, became a bestseller, Wings of Silence. And then I've been
congratulations on that, by the way. It's amazing. Yeah.
No, thank you. So I dabble in the writing space, and I love my movies, and I've done a lot of audio works. I've done about 11 audiobook titles now, including one for the President of India, then President. So I've forayed into many spaces, and even within music, there's obviously the singing, songwriting, and there's the performing side. And a lot of them look at me and say, "What are you?" I'm like, I'm all of the above. So it's all me. It's all me just expressing in different channels.
Yeah, you're an artist. Yeah. You're a storyteller, right?
That's it.
You're an artist, you're a storyteller. There's not one thing.
Yeah.
People may know you for this one thing, which is great, fine. But then you're doing other things. I mean, people know me primarily for my music, but then other stuff that I do, so as long as you're able to express yourself and put yourself out there, that's important that we do that.
Yes. And I like to be able to continually express. I think that's, being expressive rather than having to suppress is more liberating. It's just beautiful. Fantastic. Okay. All right. As we draw to a close of the podcast, brings us to the very last question, which we always ask. And the question is, what, according to Omar Akram, is the one must-have, the one non-negotiable to become the next big thing? Because as you know, the podcast is called The Next Big Thing. The aim of the podcast is to inspire listeners to get out of their creative shells, to become the next big thing, to do something wonderful using creativity. So over to you. What is the one must-have, one non-negotiable?
Look, I think for me, one of the things that I've learned from others and from me is, I think it's persistence. You have to have persistence, because at the end of the day, I've seen so many people that are talented and they reach a point, they reach a thing. Look, by the time I came to Los Angeles and we were talking about winning a Grammy, that took 20 years.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
20 years.
20 years of playing in weddings, bar mitzvahs, little outdoor receptions, like little, flea market, whatever, all of that, playing with top 40 bands, 20 years. And then I finally signed to a recording contract because at that time we had to.
Yeah.
We couldn't distribute our own stuff.
Right.
And so that journey from 93 to 2013 took 20 years. Okay.
Wow.
But if I've given up after 5 years and say, well, you know what, I can't do this. You and I wouldn't be having a conversation. You'd be talking to someone else, and I think, you gotta, first, you gotta be realistic. You gotta, work on your craft and get it to a level where you believe that you're great. You first, before anyone else, believe that you're great. And when you believe that, then just keep it going. Because I think Harrison Ford or someone, he said, they said, oh, you're so successful or something. He says, well, everyone else dropped out. All the people that I know, I'm the only one left. So I don't know if I'm great, but I'm here.
Last man standing. Yeah.
Basically because all his buddies just gave up and they went on and do other things. So I think at the end of the day, I'm not saying be unrealistic and believe in something like, for me to play at the NBA, I can't do that. I'm 5'7". Right. So no matter how enthusiastic I get, it just won't work. But if you believe genuinely that you're good, and that's up to you, not to anybody else, you make that decision, right? And you think, okay, I think I'm great. And you take the time, you learn, you have to go to school. You have to do all the things that you need to do to become a great whatever you want to do. I'm not just saying a musician, but anything you do, right? That at the end of the day, you just have to keep going and keep going. And then if you're open to possibilities, things will open up for you. Right. So my biggest thing for people, if you really want to succeed, is don't give up, just be persistent and keep going, because you never know. You never know what's going to happen. And just take that one thing, meeting that one person will change your whole life. Yeah.
And if you hung up your boots before that meeting, it's your loss.
That's it.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's it.
Fantastic. Okay. Great. Wow. Persistence. Great. Wow. Thank you, Omar. I, as always, have enjoyed chatting with you and thoroughly enjoyed having you on this podcast. So thank you very much for your time and your wonderful wisdom and experience.
Thank you very much for having me on, and hope to see you again soon.
Oh, we'll hope to see you in LA.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Take care.